Good morning to this pleasant Monday morning. Today we are going to see a part that is associated with bioenergetics. Now, till date, we have been working or we have been studying enzymes a lot. We have studied the basic enzymes, and from the enzymes itself, now we'll turn our attentions toward bioenergetics. So, what is bioenergetics? Let us understand the some concepts that are associated with bioenergetics, and then we'll turn our attention towards specific pathways that are inside the cell, and that helps in the metabolism of that particular cell. So, what is bioenergetics? Living organisms. Now, what are these being helpful for living organisms? So let us understand that what the living organisms are up to or why they are said to be important. Living organisms must work to stay alive, to grow and reproduce. So why we need energy? We need energy to stay alive and to grow and to reproduce. So all living organisms have the ability to produce energy and to channel it into biological work. See, energy is produced inside our body, and once the energy is being produced, it cannot be stored for a long period of time. So it has to be utilized by some or the other kind of work. So this ability of channeling that energy is an important point. So living organisms carry out energy transductions, conversion of one form of energy to another form. So from one form of energy to another form, we are just converting that energy and utilizing it for our metabolic process. Modern organisms use the chemical energy in fuels, that is carbohydrates, lipids, to bring about synthesis of complex macromolecules from simple precursors. They also convert the chemical energy into concentration gradients and electrical gradients into motion, heat, and in few organisms, the light, fireflies, some deep sea fishes as well. So ultimately, the aim of this particular point is how energy conversion takes place and what is the utilization of that energy, how actually it works in terms of energy. For example, is that fireflies have they concentrate that energy in such a kind of form during the daytime, and once during the night time they exhibit that energy into another form in terms of a light, and there we see that the fireflies are said to be in a lightened way. Biological energy transactions obeys the simple physical law that governs all our natural processes. So bioenergetics, what is the definition of bioenergetics? It is the quantitative study of energy transaction that occurs in living cells and of the nature and function of chemical processes underlying this transaction. So it is a quantitative study. Quantitative study of what? Quantitative study of energy transaction means how energy gets converted from one form to another form, how molecules gets transferred, how in the metabolism all that energy is utilized or energy is being given out. That defines in terms of bioenergetics. Now, I know, of course, the bioenergetics is based on laws, and the bioenergetics are based on laws of thermodynamics. So, biological energy transaction obeys the laws of thermodynamics. For any physical chemical change, first law, for any physical chemical changes, the total amount of energy in the universe remains constant. Energy may change or it may be transported from one region to another, but it cannot be created or destroyed. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another form. So that is the clear definition of the first law of thermodynamics. Now what the second law says? The universe always tends towards increasing the disorder. In all natural processes, the entropy of the universe increases. So disorder level always been there in terms of the energy transaction process. Third law, the reacting system may be an organism and a cell or two reacting components, and the reacting system and its surrounding together constitutes the universe. Means ultimately, the instability of the universe takes place because of this system. Gibbs free energy, G, it is represented by capital G, expresses the amount of energy capable of doing work during a reaction at constant temperature and pressure. So this is the third law of thermodynamics that comes in play. When a reaction proceeds with the release of free energy, that is when the system changes so as to possess less free energy, delta G has negative value and the reaction is said to be exergenic. So whenever a reaction takes place and ultimately when there is an energy flow, the energy is given out, then the delta G, that is enthalpy, is said to be negative. And the reaction is exorgenic. Exorgenic means to expel out. Exorgenic. In endogenic reaction, the system gains the free energy and delta G is positive. So in endogenic means to coming in. So endogenic reaction, the system gains the free energy and delta G is positive. The unit of delta G is joules per mole or calories per mole. Okay, so in order to calculate the delta G of a particular system, we need specific units. Either it will be joules per mole or calories per mole. Enthalpy, capital H. Enthalpy is the heat content of the reacting system. H reflects the number of kind of chemical bonds in the reactants and products. When a chemical reaction releases heat, it is said to be exothermic. Now, similarly, what we have undergone with entropy, similarly, it is enthalpy as well. When a chemical reaction releases heat from a chemical reaction, when two reactants are there and ultimately the heat energy is being given out, then we say it is an exothermic process. And the heat content of the product is less than that of the reactant. The delta H has a negative value. Okay. Reacting system that takes up heat from the surrounding of the endothermic, and are positive values as well. So similarly, when that reaction needs energy, when the system takes in energy, then ultimately the heat energy, it is endothermic, and the delta H is to be positive. The unit of delta H is again joules per mole or calories per mole. Now entropy. S is a quantitative expression for randomness or a disorder in the system. Again, the unit of delta S is joules per moles or Kelvin. Okay, so these are some how free energy has been calculated, enthalpy is calculated, entropy is calculated. We already gone to this particular part. Living organisms preserve their internal order by taking free energy from their surrounding in the form of nutrients or sunlight and returning to their surroundings an equal amount of energy in heat and entropy. So what these organisms do? The organisms have a plenty of internal organs, and these internal organs need energy for the metabolism. So this energy is being conserved by the organisms, and any less amount of energy is there, then it is being taken on from nutrients, and ultimately it is being given out in some or the other type of form. For example, oxidation of glucose, very important example. Aerobic organisms extract free energy from glucose obtained by the surrounding by oxidizing the glucose with oxygen. The end product of the oxidation reaction is CO2 and H2O, and they are returned to the surrounding. See here, from free energy, when they are taken, the glucose with oxygen, oxidation of glucose, it takes place, and ultimately oxygen obtained from the surrounding. And the end product, the oxygen is taken inside, it is being utilized. What are the end products? The end products are CO2 and H2O are given back to the system, and equilibrium is maintained between the two systems. They are returned to the surroundings. At the end of the process, the surrounding undergoes an increase in entropy, whereas the organism itself remains in a steady state. What I was supposed to tell you, that organisms, they utilize the energy and they return that energy to the surrounding and remains stable. So there's no change occurs in the internal organ. Here, 7 molecules, oxygen and gas, ultimately 12 molecules of CO2 and H2 have been released. When a chemical reaction results in an increase in the number of molecules, the entropy of the surrounding increases. Whenever a solid substance is converted into a liquid or gaseous form, the entropy of surrounding increases, because this transformation allows the molecule more freedom to move. So if it gets converted into some another form, then ultimately its change in the another form will help to develop the entropy. Now cells requires source of free energy. Why the cell require? Living organisms acquire free energy from the nutrient molecules. Cell transform this free energy into ATP, another energy-rich compound. So what is the use of the energy to the cell? It converts maximum of its energy in terms of ATP, the adenosine triphosphate. We have already seen this part in terms of enzymes. They are capable of providing energy for biological work at constant temperature. So this ATP is being utilized for the metabolism of that particular cell, and utilization of ATP results in pure metabolism of the cell. Okay. So that's all for today, and we have concluded a part that is associated with basic terminologies in bioenergetics. Next lecture, we'll start with specific pathways that is associated with this energy yielding process.